Have you ever wondered why the same kind of pain keeps finding you again and again? Why no matter how hard you try to change, you still end up feeling unseen, unheard, or never enough? Maybe you've asked yourself, why do I attract the same kind of people, or replay the same emotional story, even when I know better? The truth is, these patterns didn't start in adulthood. They began in childhood, long before you had the words to understand what was happening. And according to the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, what we refuse to make conscious will quietly run our lives until we finally face it. But here's the twist. Sometimes, what shapes you isn't a memory at all. It's a lie that you never chose, but learned to live by. Jung believed childhood isn't something that simply ends when we grow up. It becomes a structure within us, a map that quietly guides how we think, feel, and love. Your adult personality is built on the emotional climate you grew up in. If love was conditional, you learned to earn it. If feelings were unsafe, you learned to hide them. If silence kept the peace, you became quiet, not because you wanted to, but because it kept you safe. From your earliest days, your nervous system wasn't waiting for logic. It was reading tone, tension, and touch, trying to figure out what was safe and what wasn't. And that early data shaped your emotional language for life. These learned responses, staying small, pleasing others, being perfect, or staying invisible, don't feel like things you learned. They feel like who you are, but they're not. They're strategies your younger self built to survive. Carl Jung described this inner adaptation through two ideas: the persona and the shadow. The persona is the mask we wear to be accepted, the good version of ourselves that fits into the world. It isn't fake, it's just incomplete. Every time we put on the mask, pretending to be strong, calm, or cheerful when we're breaking inside, we push something else into the dark. Our fear, our anger, our real voice. The world praises this mask. It rewards the quiet child, the achiever, the strong one, who never complains. And slowly, we start believing that the mask is who we are, that our worth depends on how well we play the role. The result? We grow up successful, but disconnected, loved, yet empty, surrounded, yet lonely. Jung warned about this disconnection. He said that everything we repress doesn't disappear, it waits in the shadow, quietly shaping our choices and emotions from beneath our awareness. So what is this lie we keep living out? It isn't something someone shouted at us. It was whispered into our nervous system through everyday moments. The lie says, you, as you are not enough to be loved. No one had to say it directly. It was taught through tone, through the praise that came only when you behaved, through the cold shoulder that came when you cried, through the disappointment that followed your mistakes. You learned that love had conditions. You had to earn it by being quiet, being helpful, being good, being perfect. You learned that parts of you were too much, and so you began to hide them. Years later, that same lesson echoes in how you move through life. You might overwork, overthink, or overgive. You might fear rest, because rest feels undeserved. You might chase perfection, because imperfection feels dangerous. You might shrink yourself in relationships to keep the peace. This is what Jung called a split self, when the authentic self and the adapted self live in conflict. The child inside still believes that love must be earned, even when the adult knows better. Modern neuroscience now supports what Jung saw a century ago. The brain wires itself around early experiences. A child who grows up in stress or unpredictability doesn't just learn to avoid conflict. Their entire nervous system adapts to survive it. The amygdala becomes overactive, always scanning for danger. The prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate emotion, develops under strain. So even as adults, when there's no real threat, the body still reacts like there is. Attachment research confirms this pattern. When care is inconsistent or conditional, the child's sense of self becomes tied to performance. That's the biological side of what Jung called the shadow. It's not mystical. It's memory stored in the body. Healing this doesn't mean rewriting the past. It means reconnecting with the parts of you that were left behind. Jung called this process individuation, becoming whole. He believed healing isn't about becoming a better person. It's about becoming a complete one. To begin, you need awareness to see that your patterns were once protections, then acceptance to hold your anger, sadness, or fear without shame. And finally, integration, allowing both sides of you to exist together, the child who wanted safety, and the adult who seeks truth. True healing isn't glamorous. It's quiet, uncomfortable, and real. It happens in the moments you choose, honesty over pretending, rest over proving, feeling over performing. Every time you make that choice, you weaken the lie. Jung said that modern people don't suffer from lack of technique, but from lack of meaning. We keep trying to fix ourselves, instead of understanding ourselves. But there's nothing to fix, only to remember. The real power begins when you stop chasing worth, and start realizing you never lost it. Every time you speak up when you'd normally stay silent, every time you choose to rest without guilt, every time you say no without fear, you are breaking the cycle. You are teaching your nervous system that safety doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from being real. The ugliest lie falls apart the moment you name it. When you finally say, I am enough, as I am, it's not an affirmation, it's a return to the self that existed before you learned fear, before you learned that love had terms. You are not who you had to become to survive. You are who you were before the world told you otherwise. That is Jung's forgotten truth. The path from survival to authenticity. If this message speaks to you, share it with someone still trying to earn their worth. Leave a comment about the part of yourself you're ready to reclaim, maybe your voice, your softness, or your freedom. And remember, you were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be whole.